The words sliced through the marble lobby of First National Bank like a blade through velvet. You people don't belong here. Eleanor Thompson stands at teller window 3, her calloused hands gripping a $15,000 business check. The young woman behind the bulletproof glass, Sarah Johnson, 23, with blonde highlights and flawless makeup, stares at her with open disdain. "Excuse me?" Eleanor's voice holds quiet strength, laced with an undercurrent of resolve. Sarah barely glances up from her computer screen. "I said what I said. We have standards here." Eleanor smooths her simple navy cardigan, bought on clearance last spring, and slides the check across the polished marble counter. "Ma'am, this is a legitimate business deposit from Horizon Capital Holdings to Thompson Family Enterprises. I've banked here for 12 years. Sarah finally looks up, her blue eyes narrowing as she sizes Eleanor up from head to toe. 12 years. I highly doubt that. She lifts the check with the tips of her manicured nails as if it might taint her. This is a lot of money for someone like you. In her mind, Sarah sneers. Look at her, acting like she owns the place. Cheap knockoff handbag, pretending to be someone important. I've seen this scam before. Some woman walks in with a sob story and a fake check, and gullible tellers like me fall for it every time. Above them, the bank's massive LCD screen flashes corporate slogans, mortgage rates, investment ads, and customer testimonials. But Eleanor doesn't notice. She's focused on holding her composure as her heart hammers like a trapped bird yearning to break free. What would you do if your bank shamed your mother? Fear eats at Sarah's core like acid corroding steel. Her last termination letter still sears her memory. Failed to follow verification protocols, causing significant financial loss. $17,000. That's what her error cost her last employer. $17,000 that left her jobless for 4 months. 4 months of rejection letters and shrinking savings. 4 months of her daughter asking why mommy couldn't buy new school clothes. "Ma'am, I need you to explain your connection to Horizon Capital Holdings." Sarah's voice rings out across the lobby like an accusation, loud enough for half the customers to hear. "Because this looks suspicious to me. Very suspicious." Eleanor feels 20 pairs of eyes drilling into her back like lasers. Their stares weigh on her shoulders, but her voice remains even. "It's my son's investment firm. He sends monthly support for our family business." Sarah lets out a sharp, cruel laugh that bounces off the marble walls. "Right. And I bet you're some big-time tycoon." She turns to her colleague at the next window, raising her voice louder. "Can you believe this? She wants me to cash a $15,000 check from some fancy investment firm. Says it's from her son's company. Probably printed it at home this morning." Her colleague glances over nervously, uneasy with Sarah's tone and volume, but stays silent. Office politics are tricky, and Sarah has seniority. Humiliation seeps through Eleanor's chest like red wine on a white tablecloth, staining everything, but she refuses to let it show. At 60, raised in rural Virginia by parents who endured segregation, she learned dignity isn't worn on the outside. It's carried in your bones. She knows how to swallow disrespect and turn it into fuel for the long battle ahead. "I can't afford another mistake," Sarah's mind screams. "Can't lose another job. Not with my daughter counting on me. Not with her medical bills stacking up and no insurance for her asthma meds. This woman with her fake designer bag and her shady $15,000 check. I won't fall for it again." Eleanor slides her driver's license, business registration, and banking statements across the counter with precise care. "Here's my ID and business documents. I've done this routine countless times over the past decade." Sarah inspects each paper like a detective probing a crime scene, but her expression shows she's already decided. "Mrs. Thompson," she reads slowly, each syllable dripping with disdain. "This address doesn't match our system. We moved our business office last month. I submitted the address change form 3 weeks ago." Eleanor's voice stays calm, but dread coils in her stomach. She knows this look. She's seen it in stores where security tails her, in restaurants where servers ignore her table, in clinics where receptionists mysteriously lose her appointment. "Well, there's no record of any address change here," Sarah declares triumphantly, as if she's exposed a grand conspiracy. "And frankly, this whole thing feels highly irregular. A woman like you claiming to own a business, trying to deposit such a large sum." Unbeknownst to her, the CEO's mother stands firm, her son's face soon to appear on the screen above. "I'll need to hold this check for investigation." Sarah reaches for it with eager fingers, but Eleanor pulls it back slightly. "I'd like to speak to your manager, please." "That won't be necessary." Sarah's voice climbs another notch, and she gestures toward the glass-walled office with dramatic flair. "I have full authority to handle suspicious transactions. Michael, can you come here? We've got a problem." Michael Carter steps out from his office like a man summoned to a firing squad. At 35, he's scaled the corporate ladder by dodging controversies and keeping his team content. His lanky frame swims in a worn suit, and his thinning hair barely conceals a stress-induced bald spot that's grown since his promotion 6 months ago. "People think managing is easy," Michael muses as he nears the teller window. "But they don't get the pressure. One slip, one complaint that hits regional, and I'm back to being a loan officer scraping by on $40,000 a year. I've got 2 kids, a mortgage, and a wife who expects more from me by now. What's the issue here?" His smile is rehearsed, artificial, the kind middle managers master for tense situations that could spiral. Sarah leans toward him, her voice loud enough for nearby customers to hear. "This customer is trying to deposit what I'm sure is a fake check. $15,000 from some investment firm she claims her son owns. It's a clear scam." Michael's smile wavers as his mind races through worst-case scenarios. Corporate just sent another memo about fraud schemes, with stats on losses and warnings about employee liability. They target banks like ours, using certain profiles to trick sympathetic staff. If this goes wrong, if Sarah's right and I override her, my career's on the line. Regional's already hounding me about our numbers, complaints, everything. "Mrs. Thompson," Michael says, his tone patronizing, like he's explaining something simple to a child. "I understand Sarah's concerns. We've had multiple cases of sophisticated fake checks targeting our tellers lately. Nothing personal, just sound business practice." Standard procedure. Eleanor's patience, stretched thin as gossamer over the last 15 minutes, begins to fray. "This check is from my son's legitimate business. I can provide more documents, references, whatever you need. But I won't be treated like a criminal in a bank where I've been a loyal customer for over a decade." Michael glances at the growing line of customers behind Eleanor. Their faces a mix of curiosity, unease, and frustration at the delay. An older man in a suit shakes his head in apparent disgust. Whether it's Sarah's conduct or Eleanor's presence is unclear. A young mother with 2 kids fidgets nervously, checking her watch. "Maybe we should take this to my office," Michael suggests, already regretting his involvement in this mess. "No." Eleanor's voice cuts through the air with surprising force, startling everyone nearby. "If this is how you treat legitimate customers, do it in the open. Let everyone see what kind of bank this is. Let them witness your customer service standards." A mother's dignity becomes the stage where institutional bias bears its ugly truth. The lobby's atmosphere shifts like the calm before a storm. Customers halt their conversations, sensing drama unfolding. Cell phones slip out of purses and pockets as people realize something big is happening. something that could go viral. Sarah's hands clamp around the check with fierce determination. Time splinters into sharp fragments as she locks eyes with Eleanor and declares, "I've seen enough. This is obviously fake." The sound that follows rings through the marble lobby like a gunshot. Sharp, deliberate, final. Sarah tears the check in half, then quarters, the pieces fluttering to the counter like confetti, woven from shame and disrespect. The world slows. Eleanor watches each fragment fall, the paper bearing her son's careful signature and his company's logo, now scattered like broken dreams across the cold marble. The ripping sound, crisp as dry leaves, brutal as snapping bones, drowns out the lobby's usual hum of routine transactions, replacing it with stunned silence. "There," Sarah proclaims to the marble void, her voice thick with smug satisfaction that churns stomachs across the lobby. Clearly fraudulent. I'm not falling for that again. Not in my bank. Eleanor's hands tremble as she reaches for the pieces, and the world seems to hold its breath. Conversations freeze mid-sentence. Pens hover mid-signature. Even the security guard by the door turns to stare, his lined face etched with unease and disbelief. The silence stretches, heavy and stifling, broken only by the faint rustle of paper as Eleanor gathers each fragment with care. Her movements are precise, dignified, handling each piece with the reverence reserved for cherished photos or letters from loved ones long gone. Eleanor's face stays composed, a lesson in grace under fire, but her eyes tell a deeper story. They speak of midnight shifts at the textile factory to fund her son's business school. They speak of midnight shifts at the textile factory to fund her son's business school. They recall nights spent at the kitchen table with accounting books scattered like fallen leaves, helping him grasp business concepts she never formally studied. They carry every sacrifice, every deferred dream, every hope poured into giving him chances she never had. Customers watch in stunned silence as this poised woman bends slightly to pick up a piece that drifted to the floor. An elderly veteran steps forward, his fists clenched. A young Hispanic mother with 2 children whispers urgently to her husband in Spanish, their faces taut with recognition and shared pain. "You people need to understand," Sarah continues, her voice rising with each word, fueled by the spotlight and adrenaline of unchecked power. "We have procedures here, standards. This isn't some small-town bank where you can stroll in with homemade checks and expect us to cash them like we're a charity." Eleanor rises slowly, clutching the torn pieces like fragments of her heart. For a fleeting moment, her composure cracks, revealing the fire beneath. The mother of America's youngest banking CEO gathers the shards of her dignity. Eleanor steps into the crisp October air, her hand still shaking as she pulls out her phone. She walks to the far edge of the parking lot, away from the bank's towering glass facade with its gleaming bronze logo, and dials a number etched in her memory. "James, it's Mom." Her voice is steady, controlled. But James Thompson, 300 miles away in his 42nd floor Manhattan office, hears the weariness woven through her words like a shadow beneath calm waters. "Mom, what's wrong? You sound—" James sets down his pen, giving her his full focus. At 32, he's learned to read the subtle shifts in his mother's tone, the silences that speak louder than words. "They destroyed your support check again, at First National." She doesn't say humiliated, but the word lingers in the autumn air like smoke from a distant blaze. "Tore it up in front of everyone. Called me a fraud, a criminal. Handle this properly, baby. Handle it right." James closes his eyes, feeling his world tilt. He's the youngest CEO in banking,
having just finalized the quiet acquisition of a regional chain that includes, by fate or irony, First National Bank. His mother doesn't know about the acquisition yet. He'd planned to surprise her next month, maybe over dinner, at that upscale restaurant she always admired, but never felt welcome in. "Mom, I need you to do something for me. Are you listening?" "I'm listening, baby. Go back inside. Ask for the branch manager again. Don't leave until they fix this." "James, honey, I don't think that's wise. These people have already judged me. They see what they want to see, and nothing I say will change that. Trust me, Mom, one more time. And Mom," he pauses, thinking of the 3 jobs she worked to fund his education, the nights she dozed at the kitchen table surrounded by accounting books, teaching him business through sheer will and love. "Remember what you taught me about staying silent." Eleanor's smile breaks through, warming her like sunlight. "Sometimes staying quiet keeps you safe, but it never keeps you right." "Exactly. Go back in, Mom, and this time, don't stay quiet." The call ends, but Eleanor lingers in the parking lot, watching clouds gather like an impending storm. She thinks of the lessons she taught her son about dignity and justice, the heavy cost of doing what's right when walking away would be easier. She thinks of other mothers, other families who lack a powerful son to call, who must swallow this treatment and smile because they need the bank more than it needs them. Not today. Not anymore. The call that will shift everything has been made to the one person with the power to act. Eleanor strides back through the bank's heavy glass doors, and Sarah's face hardens into a mask of irritation and disbelief. "Ma'am, I thought we were done. I thought I made myself clear." "I'd like to speak with Mr. Carter again. There's confusion about my account status." "There's no confusion," Sarah snaps, her voice sharp enough to shatter glass. "You tried to deposit a fake check. I caught you. End of story." But Michael appears quickly, eager to resolve this before it escalates to regional management. Sweat stains bloom under his arms despite the frigid air conditioning. "Mrs. Thompson, I believe we've handled this appropriately. Perhaps you'd be more comfortable banking elsewhere. There are community banks nearby that might better suit your needs." Eleanor meets his gaze. "You mean ones that respect customers regardless of their skin color?" The words hang like an unspoken charge. Michael's face cycles through red, white, and red again. "That's not what I meant," he stammers, but his defense rings hollow, even to himself. Sarah calls over the security guard, a burly ex-cop who's seen this scene too many times in his 15 years on the job. "Security, this customer is getting disruptive, belligerent. Can you escort her out before she causes more trouble?" The guard approaches slowly, his heavy steps echoing like a dirge on the marble floor. He's a decent man, raised to respect everyone, and this situation sours his stomach. But he's got a job to protect, a family to feed. "Ma'am, I need to ask you to leave for trying to deposit a legitimate check, for demanding basic respect in a bank where I've been a customer for 12 years. Customers murmur among themselves, their voices growing sharper. A young Hispanic woman with 2 kids whispers urgently to her husband in Spanish, their eyes flicking between Eleanor and the staff. An elderly veteran steps forward. "Excuse me," he says to Michael, his voice heavy with authority from battles fought abroad and at home. "I've watched this whole thing. That lady did nothing wrong." "Nothing?" "Sir, this doesn't concern you," Michael snaps, but his confidence wanes under the veteran's steady stare. "Treating people with dignity concerns everyone. That's what I fought for. That's what my friends died for, and I'll be damned if I stand here and watch you disrespect this woman for no reason." Sarah's voice climbs to a near shout, cracking with stress and fear. "She tried to deposit a fake $15,000 check. I'm protecting this bank from fraud, from criminals who think they can walk in and steal from us." The lobby hums with heated conversations, most condemning Sarah's behavior. Cell phones emerge like weapons drawn for battle. Videos start recording. This is going viral, whether the bank likes it or not. A community of witnesses forms as institutional bias reveals its toxic face. Michael feels the situation slipping like a car skidding on ice toward a crash. The lobby buzzes, voices growing louder. He knows corporate complaints are inevitable. His job, his mortgage, his daughter's college fund, all hinge on maintaining order and avoiding publicity that sparks regional scrutiny. "Everyone, please return to your business," he announces with forced authority that convinces no one. This is a private matter between the bank and this customer. Nothing to see here. Please give us space to handle this professionally. But privacy is far from Eleanor's mind. She's thinking of her son's words, the lessons she taught him at the kitchen table, the choice between safety and righteousness that defines moral courage. "This is exactly what my son warned me about," she says clearly, her voice reaching every corner of the marble lobby. "How banks systematically mistreat people who don't fit your comfortable assumptions. How you assume the worst about people who look like me." "Ma'am, your son's opinions don't change the facts," Michael retorts. But Eleanor's poise unsettles him. She doesn't act like someone caught in fraud. She's neither desperate nor defensive. She carries herself like someone wronged who knows exactly how to respond. Sarah, bolstered by Michael's support and terrified of looking weak, escalates. "Dave, call the police. I want her charged with attempted fraud and trespassing. Make sure they know she's been disruptive and threatening staff." The lobby falls silent except for the hum of lights and distant traffic. Eleanor's face stays calm, but her mind races through consequences. James told her to trust him, but arrest would ruin her small business's reputation, shame her family, and give these people what they seem to want. "Before you do that," Eleanor says softly, her voice slicing through the tension like a knife through silk, "you might want to check your corporate directory." Michael frowns, confusion overtaking anger. "What do you mean?" "Check who owns this bank now. Check who signs your paychecks. Check who can fire everyone in this building." Sarah laughs, but it's strained, verging on hysteria, like someone realizing they've made a grave error but can't back down. "Right. And I suppose you're some secret billionaire, some undercover bank inspector." But Eleanor's unshakable confidence unsettles Michael. He's heard whispers of a recent acquisition, rumors of corporate changes, but details were kept hushed at the highest levels. His phone buzzes with a call from regional headquarters. Then again. Then the main bank line rings relentlessly. The moment of truth hangs like lightning about to strike. The massive LCD screen above flickers, shifting from mortgage ads to corporate messaging that will change everything in 30 seconds. The transition unfolds in slow motion, pixels rearranging like a puzzle, revealing a new reality. First National Bank proudly announces our new leadership, following our acquisition by Horizon Capital Holdings. Join us in welcoming our new CEO, James Thompson, as he leads us into a new era of community-driven banking excellence. A professional headshot fills the 40-inch screen. Young, confident, in a navy suit worth more than Sarah's bi-monthly pay. The resemblance to Eleanor is striking. The same sharp eyes, the same strong jaw, the same quiet resolve that carried her through this ordeal. Sarah's face goes pale, as if all color has drained from her. Her hands shake, and she grips the counter to steady herself. That's not possible. That can't be real." "Horizon Capital Holdings," Eleanor says softly, her voice carrying across the silent lobby like a prophecy. "The same company on the check you destroyed. The same company that now owns this bank. The same company my son runs." Michael's phone erupts with calls from regional headquarters, the sound piercing the air like an alarm. Sarah's phone buzzes. The main line rings incessantly, creating a chorus of panic that fills the marble space with the sound of careers crumbling. "Oh God," Sarah whispers, staring at the screen like it's her own execution. "Oh God! Oh God! I didn't know. How could I know?" The lobby buzzes with whispers, pointing fingers, and the sound of justice arriving late, but with devastating precision. The elderly veteran grins and claps slowly, each clap echoing like a gunshot celebrating victory. Other customers join in, the applause thundering through the marble space, bouncing off the high ceiling and polished floors. Eleanor dials James's number with steady hands. He answers on the first ring, and she holds up the phone so he can hear the chaos, the applause, Sarah's quiet sobs, the ringing phones. "James, honey, I think your surprise announcement just went live." From 300 miles away, her son's laughter rings through the lobby, rich with love, justice, and the satisfaction of a plan perfectly executed. Regional Director Patricia Coleman's voice crackles through Michael's phone, loud enough for nearby customers to hear. "Michael, please tell me you didn't just humiliate the new CEO's mother. Please tell me this is a nightmare I'll wake up from." The CEO's mother watches her son's face dominate the screen of the bank that shattered her dignity. Michael's hands shake like leaves in a storm as he answers. The voice on the other end is his regional director, speaking quickly and quietly, a corporate death knell. "Michael, are you seeing the lobby screens?" "Yes, ma'am. I'm seeing them. Tell me, for the love of God, you didn't just humiliate the new CEO's mother in front of a lobby full of witnesses who are posting videos to every social media platform." Michael looks at Eleanor, now surrounded by supportive customers, smiling for the first time since entering. The veteran has his arm around her like a protective father. Cell phones capture every angle. This is going viral, and viral in banking is never good. There may have been a misunderstanding. A misunderstanding? "Michael, my phone's exploding. Your teller destroyed a legitimate check and called security on Eleanor Thompson. Do you understand who she is? Do you grasp the scale of what you've done? Do you have any idea how many zeros are in the lawsuit being drafted right now?" Sarah slumps into a chair behind the counter, head in hands, her career dissolving like sugar in rain. The security guard retreats to his post, staring at his shoes, wishing he'd called in sick, wishing he'd never taken this job, wishing he were anywhere else. "No, ma'am. The check looked suspicious." Sarah followed protocol. It was from Horizon Capital Holdings. "Michael, the company that just acquired us, that signs your paychecks, that owns this building, your desk, and apparently your future. And you let your teller shred it and humiliate the CEO's mother in front of witnesses posting videos with hashtags I can't even think about." Eleanor approaches the phone conversation with the poise of someone who knows she holds all the cards. Michael hands her the receiver reluctantly, like it's a live grenade. "This is Eleanor Thompson. Yes, James is my son. No, this doesn't reflect well on your branch's training or culture. Yes, we need to discuss this properly, and soon." The conversation stretches for several minutes, Eleanor's calm voice contrasting with the panicked responses on the line. Customers gather, some recording, others witnessing history unfold. 20 minutes later, James Thompson strides through First National Bank's doors like a general claiming his ground. He's driven 3 hours from Manhattan in record time, his company helicopter landing him on a nearby rooftop. His Navy suit is pristine, his tie flawless, but his eyes burn with the controlled rage of a son whose mother was publicly shamed by his own staff. The lobby falls silent as he enters, conversations halting as people recognize the face from the screen. Eleanor stands near the teller windows, now surrounded by employees scrambling to recall their customer service training, desperate to fix a disaster they didn't create. Sarah stays seated, unable to meet anyone's gaze, her world collapsing like a house of cards in a storm. James embraces his mother gently, camera still rolling. "Are you okay, Mom?" "I'm fine, baby. But we need to talk about your policies here." He turns to the lobby, his voice commanding, honed in boardrooms and billion-dollar deals. "Ladies and gentlemen, I'm sorry for the disruption to your banking today. I'm James Thompson, and as of this morning, I'm the CEO of First National Bank and its parent company, Horizon Capital Holdings." The lobby hangs on his words. "Mom, remember what you told me when I was 12, and Tommy Wilson called me that word at school?" Eleanor nods, her eyes shining with pride and memory. "I told you sometimes, staying quiet keeps you safe, but it never keeps you right. You taught me dignity isn't something others give you. It's something you give yourself. And you taught me that when you have power, you use it to protect those who don't." He faces Sarah, tears streaming down her face like rivers of regret. "Mrs. Johnson, can you explain why you destroyed my company's check and called security on my mother?" Sarah stares at the woman she thought was beneath her, now revealed as her boss's mother. Before she can respond, James continues. "Actually, let me ask something else first. Do you have children, Ms. Johnson?" Sarah nods weakly. "A daughter," she says. "And if someone treated you the way you treated my mother, tore up your paycheck, called you a fraud, humiliated you in front of strangers, how would that feel?" The question lingers like a test of empathy. James requests the security footage, and within minutes, the incident plays out on Michael's office screen in stark clarity. Eleanor watches her own humiliation with detached calm, but James's jaw tightens like a spring under pressure. When Sarah tears the check, Eleanor says quietly, "Turn it off. I don't need to see that again." James pauses the video and faces his mother, the weight of decision heavy on him. "Mom, if you were me, with the power to fix this, to ensure it never happens again, what would you do? Would you forgive them?" Eleanor weighs the question, thinking of Sarah's tears, Michael's fear, and the systemic issues that fueled this moment. She thinks of her son's career, his legacy, the precedent this sets for every minority family walking through these doors. "James, I didn't raise you to be cruel, but I didn't raise you to let cruelty go unchecked. What's the right thing? It's not always the easy thing." Sarah acted from fear and prejudice. Michael enabled it and fostered the environment where it thrived, but they're products of a system that taught them to think this way. She pauses, glancing at Sarah through the office window, struggling to hold herself together. "I raised you to do what's right, not what's easy. That means accountability with a chance for growth." James nods, clarity dawning like sunrise after a long night. Consequences with compassion, justice with humanity. Always justice with humanity. Then Eleanor asks the pivotal question. "James, what's Sarah's story? Why is she so afraid?" James pulls up Sarah's file. Single mother. Fired from her last job for processing a fraudulent check. $17,000 in losses. She's been supporting her daughter alone. No child support. Working multiple jobs. Eleanor's face softens. And Michael grew up in foster care, first in his family to graduate college. He's terrified of failure because he's never had a safety net. Eleanor looks at her son with pride and sorrow intertwined. Fear makes people do terrible things, baby. But fear means they're human. Their mistakes came from desperation, not malice. James types with fierce focus, reshaping the world one policy at a time. Sarah Johnson will be terminated from her teller role, effective immediately, but offered a position in customer relations after completing bias training. Michael Carter will be demoted, but retained with mandatory sensitivity training. Both incidents will be documented, with pathways for redemption and my daughter's future. Full scholarship fund, healthcare coverage, because children shouldn't suffer for their parents' mistakes. Within an hour, James turns consequences into growth opportunities. Sarah clears her desk while learning about her new role in customer advocacy. She approaches Eleanor, tears staining her face with genuine remorse. "Mrs. Thompson, I was so scared of losing my job again that I became the thing I feared, someone who ruins others' chances. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." Eleanor studies her, seeing not an enemy, but a mother struggling in a system that pits them against each other. "Sarah, fear makes us do ugly things, but it doesn't excuse them. You have a chance to learn and help others who walk through these doors. Don't waste it." Corporate ripples spread like stones in still water. Michael accepts his new role and training with surprising grace, perhaps relieved to still have a job. "I learned something today," he tells James during their restructuring meeting, "about assumptions and their cost, about the difference between following rules and doing what's right, about how my fears turn me into someone I don't want to be." The story spreads like wildfire online. Bank CEO defends mother from discrimination at his own branch goes viral within hours. But the deeper narrative about redemption, second chances, and tackling root causes resonates more. The security footage, released with Eleanor's consent and James's strategic approval, shows the entire incident: the contempt, the humiliation, the revelation, and the compassionate response. It becomes a lesson in leadership under pressure. James leverages the attention like a chess master, turning defense into victory. He announces sweeping reforms that shake the banking industry: mandatory bias training, new complaint procedures to protect customers, employee support systems, and a policy review board with community input. "This isn't about one bad interaction," he tells reporters at a press conference. "It's about systemic change in how banks serve all communities, regardless of race, income, or status. But it's also about recognizing employees are human, with fears that lead to poor choices. We're addressing both." Eleanor stands beside him, dignified yet firm. "This happened to me, but it happens to countless others without a CEO for a son. What makes this different is our choice to respond with accountability and compassion, to lift people up instead of tearing them down." A mother's humiliation sparks industry-wide change. 6 months later, the first national incident is studied in business schools. Harvard's case study: crisis, leadership, and social responsibility. The Thompson method highlights James's reforms. Banks nationwide adopt similar policies to avoid their own viral crises. Eleanor visits the branch regularly, not for business, but to witness the change taking root like flowers in enriched soil. The new teller, fresh from college, greets every customer with warmth and competence. Sarah, now in customer advocacy, helps families navigate services and shines as one of the branch's best. "People don't understand," Eleanor tells a conference of business leaders. "This was never about revenge. It was about recognition, that every person deserves respect, regardless of appearance, dress, or account balance." She pauses, scanning the executives, some nodding, others shifting uncomfortably. "My son learned the weight of power and its responsibility, but I learned something too. Sometimes staying quiet isn't an option. Sometimes speaking up is the only way to protect the next person. And sometimes those who hurt us are hurting too. Healing has to happen on both sides." James launches partnerships beyond PR, mentorship for underrepresented entrepreneurs, lending for empowerment, investment in minority businesses, and employee support like mental health and financial counseling. The ripples spread. Retail and restaurant industries update training. The conversation grows beyond banking, touching every sector where service meets justice and dignity. A year later, Eleanor and James sit in the same lobby, not banking, but marking the anniversary of a day that changed their lives, and, in small ways, the world. "Do you ever regret it?" James asks, watching diverse staff and customers interact without tension. "Going back inside that day, instead of walking away?" Eleanor watches a Hispanic mother deposit her paycheck smoothly, her kids playing quietly. She sees an elderly man get patient help with a loan application. She sees Sarah assisting a confused customer with kindness, transformed from the woman who tore up a check. "Baby, regret is for when you don't do the right thing. I did. You did. And look what came of it." James nods, then asks the question that's haunted him. Is it enough? These changes, these policies, do they balance the scales? It's a start. Real change happens one person, one interaction, one choice at a time. Eleanor stands, smoothing her navy cardigan, now a symbol of quiet resistance and triumph. "Let's go home. Your father's making his chili, and he wants to hear about your Federal Reserve presentation." At the customer service desk, a sign reads, "First National Bank is committed to serving all customers with dignity, respect, and equality. If you experience less than our highest standards, contact our advocacy line because everyone deserves to be heard." "Dignity is contagious," Eleanor says, reading the sign with satisfaction. "When you demand it for yourself, you make it easier for others to demand it. And when you offer it to those who failed you, you change the conversation." James smiles, recalling a childhood lesson about safety versus righteousness. The courage to stand up. The power of forgiveness to turn enemies into allies. A mother's strength becomes a legacy of change that will outlast them both. 2 years later, Eleanor stands before a congressional committee on discrimination in financial services, her testimony carrying the weight of experience and transformation that has rippled across industries. The room is packed with reporters, advocates, and industry leaders. Cameras broadcast live to millions following this story, from viral video to policy change. "Senators, distinguished members," Eleanor begins, her voice unwavering. "What happened to me 2 years ago wasn't unique. It was routine, systematic. The only difference was my son had the power to act." She faces the cameras. "But what about everyone else's mothers? Everyone else's families? Their dignity? Change can't rely on chance or powerful connections. It must be intentional, systemic, permanent." Senator Patricia Williams leans forward. "Mrs. Thompson, can you share the specific policy changes from your experience?" Eleanor's face glows with pride. "Senator, it began with accountability. The employees faced consequences. But my son went further. Bias training, employee support, community oversight. Most importantly, he tackled the root causes." "Can you elaborate on those causes?" "Fear, Senator. Economic fear, job insecurity, ignorance about other communities. The teller who humiliated me was a single mother terrified of losing her job. The manager who enabled her grew up in foster care, never feeling secure. My son could have fired them. Instead, he offered redemption with accountability." James, watching from the gallery, reflects on that October day. 17 major banks have adopted similar policies. Business schools teach the First National case as a model of crisis management. 3 states passed laws requiring bias training in banks. The conversation has shifted from punishment to transformation. The video of Eleanor collecting her shredded check has 47 million views. It's a symbol of dignity under pressure, grace in injustice, the power of doing what's right. "The question isn't whether discrimination exists in banks," Eleanor continues. We know it does. The question is whether we have the courage to admit it and the resolve to change it, not just through punishment, but through understanding, education, and systems that support customers and staff. Senator Michael Rodriguez raises his hand. Mrs. Thompson, some say your son was too lenient, that discrimination warrants immediate firing. Your response? Eleanor pauses thoughtfully. Senator, I understand that view, and some cases demand termination. But we had a chance to address systemic issues, not just symptoms. Sarah Johnson, the teller, is now a top customer advocate, helping marginalized families because she knows desperation. That wouldn't have happened if we'd destroyed her life for destroying my dignity. Her words echo in boardrooms, break rooms, community centers, and classrooms. They resonate with everyone judged by appearance, made to feel small by those who mistake power for worth. The applause lasts 3 minutes. Committee members thank her for her courage. The gallery gives a standing ovation that shakes the Capitol's marble pillars. But Eleanor isn't focused on the applause. She's thinking of Sarah, now helping families at a credit union and First National. She's thinking of Michael, now a consultant reforming bank practices. She's thinking of her son, who learned that power without compassion is oppression, and leadership means lifting others up, even those who hurt you. As she leaves the witness table, Eleanor offers one final thought. Justice isn't something that happens to us. It's something we create. One choice, one voice, one moment of courage at a time. But justice without mercy is just revenge, and revenge heals nothing. The question is, when you see injustice, what will you do? And when you have power, will you choose destruction or transformation? The hearing ends, but the work continues. Dignity, once claimed, sets an unyielding standard. Courage, once shown, inspires others to speak. Justice, achieved with compassion, lights the path forward. The mother who sought basic respect 2 years ago has become a symbol of what's possible when ordinary people reject the unacceptable, speak truth to power, and when those with power respond with accountability and grace. As Eleanor steps into the sunlight, she carries a question for her audience. If you were in that lobby, watching a 60-year-old woman humiliated by those with power, what would you have done? Stayed silent for your own comfort? Or found the courage to speak for someone who couldn't? And if you were Sarah, acting from fear, would you want a world of only punishment, or one offering redemption?